Good morning, students. I'm going to be using Desmos to show you how to plot scatter plot of data and create a line of best fit. You can use the linear regression model on Desmos. It's fairly easy to use and is really cool on the Desmos app. So first I'm going to go to Desmos, which is www.desmos.com. And it's a good idea if you haven't started an account to go ahead and get your own account. I already have one. I'm just logging in right now with my super secret password. And you'll notice it says it's me over here, so it knows who I am. First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually looking at page A21 in the appendix in the back of the pre-calculus book. And I've assigned, I believe, problem number 12 that you're supposed to graph and do the same thing that I'm doing here. I'm going to use number 11 as a model. So the first thing I'm going to do is have the computer plot the scatter plot. The way that I do that is over here in the plus menu, you can select table. I'm going to put down for t, which is the time, I'm going to put down the times they have listed there, which is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up through 16. And of course, this only makes sense to do if the data happens to line up in a line. If it doesn't show up as a line, then it's not going to help us out much. So now I'm putting in the D, which stands for the number of dentists. And this is since 1985, with 5 representing 1985. So now in year 1987, there were 161,000 dentists. So we're going to see if there's any linear correlation to this at all. That means do the points line up somewhat like they're going to be in a line. They don't have to be perfectly in a line, but if they're not mostly in a line, then it really doesn't make sense to do a linear regression. It might not make sense to do any kind of regression. It really depends on the situation. But it looks to me like this stuff is generally going up. I think we're going to see that when we graph these points, that it's that they actually form pretty close to a line. Now, right now, the scale isn't working for me because I got to get up to 100. And, oh, there it is. That's what I want right there. That does look very linear, doesn't it? Now, we could guess at a line, and one way to do that would be to figure out the slope. But I think a line that generally would go right through these points somewhere, and that will give us a slope and a y-intercept, and we could get a good guess. You're asked to do that on number 12, so coming up with a line. It looks like a y-intercept might be about what? Probably about 145. So I'm going to try writing my own equation just to get an idea. I don't have any idea what slope to use, so I'm going to put an n, so it puts a slider in there for me, and I can figure out what slope makes sense. But I already know that the y-intercept is going to be about 145. Now I'm going to tell it to add a slider. And it looks like that slope's a little too low. So somewhere right in there, that's a pretty good guess. So it looks like about 3x plus 145. So I'm going to change that to 3. And that's not a bad guess at a line that the best fit. I think I could do a little bit better, probably slope it up a little bit more and bring the y-intercept down a little bit. But right now I'm going to ask the computer to tell me what it thinks the best one is. And it's going to look a lot like y equals mx plus b, except we're approximating, so it's not going to be equal, it's going to be the tilde. The tilde is that strange character that you see close on to the left of the number 1 on the shift. First, we're going to put y, and this y is y sub, oh, it's its own y, okay? So y equals, and not equals, but we want that tilde. So it's a shift and that button to the left of the 1. And now I have to put the things that are in this data list. So it actually y sub 1 is approximately equal to, so I got to put a 1 here. If you just type a 1, it automatically knows it's a sub. And now I'm going to put mx plus b, but I want the computer to tell me what the mx plus b is. So I'm going to put mx plus b and see, oh, the x has to be x sub 1, so I got to put a 1 after it. And now it's already telling me an equation that comes a lot closer to those points. And yeah, the slope is more than I thought it was. And the y-intercept looks to be about 135. It's actually 133.98. So the equation that we're getting here is y equals, and m it says is 3.986. So I'm going to put 3.986 x plus, and the b is 133.98. So that's a better, I don't like that color. I'm going to change the color to something else. Let's go green. Okay. And there you go. That's pretty good. Now, the last thing I'd want to do is make a prediction. And I can make a prediction by making a new table with this as the rule. So I'm going to start a new table here. And instead of this, I'm going to put this. And paste. It's not letting me paste. There we go. Now I'm going to erase all of this. And we're going to change this to just x and see if that works. It doesn't like it. I'm not sure why. Let's go x sub 2 and see if I can go x sub 2 here and see if that makes a difference. Doesn't like it. Y equals. So let me pause this for a minute. Okay, we figured out the problem here. It needs to be in an expression that's just plain x. So here we've got the equation that they gave us, and I put in 10 for x because that's now going to work. Okay, sorry for that interruption. As I was saying, all we have to do is make sure that expression just has an x in it, not an x sub 1 or anything like that. The 10 here on the table that we had stands for 10 years after 1985, and according to the book, it's supposed to be 173. So as you can see, this comes pretty close to that prediction. They also say to figure it out for 2000. 2000 is 15 years later, so I'm typing in a 15 here. And it says it'd be pretty close to 194, which is exactly what it says on the table. And now this is predictive. 2002 isn't on the table, but it would be 17 years later. And that gives us about 202,000 dentists. And then 2005, which would be 3 years after that, which would be 20 years later. And according to this, we'd have about 214,000 dentists in the United States. Now, I don't know if those are actually accurate. We could probably look it up and see how close those predictions actually came. But that gives you an idea of what's going on. So any part of this video that you didn't understand, just go back and watch it again. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And I'm going to save this as B-1 number 11. So that I will know what that is. Okay, good luck. Do it yourself and follow this model and you should be great.